Hopefully I didn't wake anybody up. We are now in session. This is the regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's April 14th, 2016. We are underway at 7 p.m. I'd like to welcome the guests here that are in attendance and let you know we're going to, before we start, we'd like to ask that you, if you have a cell phone or electronic communication device, that you turn it to off, silent, or vibrate. We appreciate your cooperation on that. And we'll start off the agenda with the invocation. And tonight, Councilmember Alex Blue will be doing the invocation, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flags. So if you would please stand for the pledges and the invocation.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we are thankful for your presence as we contemplate issues that will shape the future of our community. Help us to strike the right balance between short-term and long-term needs of our city so that we don't put one before the other. We ask for your guidance as we work through tonight's agenda items. We also ask that you protect our police, firefighters, and all of our public servants as they work to make our community better for all of us. And finally, we ask that you provide guidance to our elected officials at all levels, that they may keep the citizens first in every decision they make. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to thee, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next up, we have our recognition, and we have a proclamation tonight that we want to present to our telecommunicators, our dispatch centers, our dispatchers for Telecommunications Week. So we have Angela Baccancelli, our dispatch supervisor, and y'all come on up and we'll take care of this. And for those of you that do not know, we opened our dispatch center in early October of 2010 when we built our police and fire stations. It was a goal that we had, and luckily we were able to bring our police and fire station project in a little over $2 million under budget. And so we used some of that money to invest in our dispatch center, and it's been an exciting adventure. And Angela's been with us a little over a year, almost a year and a half, I guess, right?
Coming up on 2.
What time flies? But she's done a great job, and all of the audits that we've had from the state, from DPS, we've passed with flying colors, and most of the time with absolutely zero deficiencies. So we're real proud of that. But it is the week that we honor the dispatchers, and I will read this proclamation and congratulate our folks. And this comes from the Office of the Mayor, Helotes, Texas, proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And it says, whereas the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week celebrates and honors telecommunications personnel in the public safety community by recognizing their dedicated service in helping those in need through the use of telecommunications, and whereas Helotes dispatchers are highly trained individuals devoted to public safety, dispatching, and they strive for consistent excellence in customer service while maintaining the highest level of professionalism. And whereas today we salute our dispatch supervisor, Angela Baccancelli, our dispatch assistant supervisor, Sabrina Richardson, and our dispatchers, Christina Lopez, Ashley Suarez, Joseph Scott, Skylar Daly, Annie Muskis, Heidi Cannon, and Dan Co. for their selfless and exemplary service, dedication, compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their duties, and remind them that they really and truly make a difference each and every day as the first level of emergency responders to our citizens, businesses, and visitors to the city of Helotes. Now, therefore, I, Thomas A. Schoolcraft, on behalf of the members of City Council, and by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Helotes, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of April 10th through 16th, 2016 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, and recognize and commend our dispatchers for their service to our community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set forth my hand and cause it to be affixed. Congratulations, kid.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. It is exciting. We, several months ago, actually started dispatching for the city of Leon Valley, and that more than doubled our call volume. But we're dispatching for their police, fire, and EMS, and so far it's worked out great. So again, we commend Angela and her staff for the job that they do, and we're very, very proud and grateful that you're here, okay? Next up, we have our citizens to be heard portion of the agenda. Grace, did we have anyone sign up? No? Okay, we'll move then on to our consent agenda. Tonight, we have items 4 through 6, and consent agenda merely lumps multiple items together that staff and I consider to be routine city business, and we present it to the council in that manner. However, council has the prerogative to ask questions. If we can answer a question fairly briefly, we'll do so. If they would like to have an item pulled for more in-depth discussion, they have the ability to request that also. So I would ask now, council members, for the consent agenda items 4 through 6, are there any questions or a request to pull an item?
I have a question.
You have a question?
sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. On item 6, there's a note about amending a plat at the Trails of Helotes subdivision. Are you just giving us heads up to study that, or? I mean, why is it
Can
just
you
a-
restate the question?
Why is there a note about amending a plat at the Trails of Helotes subdivision?
We're doing this now,
'Cause I haven't seen this before.
well, that's because it's new.
Oh, okay.
We felt in the past that a lot of our agenda items aren't real clear as far as the direction we're asking council to go, or the things to consider. And it's more than that, though, it's for the general public, because the general public should understand what an agenda item is going to be addressing without having to do a lot of research. So we're trying to just put a little note at each agenda item to further explain it.
So in other words, it's going to be, probably going to be on our next meeting's agenda. Is that correct?
It should be on just about every agenda, yeah, from now on.
Okay. That's all I had.
It's just a little more explanation. Okay, so no request to pull? Okay, seeing no questions or any other requests, then we would consider a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 4 through 6.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 4 through 6 as written.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Blue. So with a motion from Fredericks, a second from Blue, on consent agenda items 4 through 6, no further discussion being required. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 4 through 6 are approved. That takes us to item number 7. And this is discussion and action on the appointment of Joel Lutz to the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation. As you know, Kathy Oliver submitted her resignation a couple of months ago, and Pat Wooten, who's now president of the EDC, said that he'd like to look around for some applicants. We had some already in our file, but he talked to Joel, and Joel agreed to submit his application, and I've known Joel for a while now, and so he answered the call and says he can do the job, so I put him up for your consideration for appointment, and Joel's here. Joel, if you'd just come up to the podium and introduce yourself, and any council members that would like to ask you any questions, we'll do that before we take a motion on this, okay?
Perfect. What kind of information would you like?
Just who you are, what you do, the application's in here, so just, I'm not asking for a complete biography.
You don't want
Just a short brief, why you want to be on the EDC.
Very good. My name's Joel Lutz. I grew up here actually in Helotes off Scenic Loop. I'm a product of O'Connor High School there. Graduated from Texas A&M. I've been in the insurance business for 6 years now. Started after I graduated, have my insurance agency over in Old Town. And so I live off Leslie Road, my wife and new baby and I. So I have the interest of the business and citizens of Helotes in mind. But other than that, I've talked to Pat quite a bit, talked to Bert, and talked to Glenn quite a bit about what's going on and things like that. So I feel my opinions could be useful, hopefully.
Okay, now we'll see if anybody has any questions. Cynthia, do you have any questions?
No, I have none.
Paul?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Bert?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to say something.
Sure.
As Joel said, we both serve on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors together. Joel is a very hard worker on that. If he brings half of what he brings to the Chamber of Commerce, he's going to be a great addition to the EDC. And also, I'd like to thank you for coming out now today, because I know, with all the weather events that we've had and with your insurance company, I'm sure you're very, very busy.
I'm going back to work, yeah.
Get back to work, but I'd like to thank you for coming out and for stepping up.
Of course.
Alex?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, then we would take a, thanks, Joe. You can have a seat. So we'll take a motion and a second then to take action on item number 7.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we discuss and take action on item 7.
I'll second it.
To approve the appointment.
Yes, to approve the appointment.
Okay, so we have a motion from Buys, a second from Blue, to approve the appointment of Joel Lutz to the fill the vacancy in the Helotes Economic Development Corporation. So no other discussion being sought. We'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Joel, congratulations, and we welcome you to the EDC and the thrill of serving the city of Helotes.
Welcome.
Good luck.
Oh, yeah, by the way, you do get homework with this assignment. So forget the hail and start studying for next Wednesday. Just kidding. We do appreciate it. Okay, item number 8, discussion and action on what else, but a variance to a sign ordinance. So I would entertain a motion and a second for discussion and action on item number 8.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion we discuss and take action on item 8.
We have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
Second.
You did say second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Fredericks. So with a motion from Buys and a second from Fredericks, we'll start discussion, hopefully leading towards some kind of action on item number 8. So Bert, it's your motion. You're up.
Well, I kind of agree with P&Z's recommendation of allowing what did we decide it was, an awning sign, canopy sign, wall sign? whatever we decided, that's fine with me. But the part I don't agree with is, they don't want to allow this, what they call a pole sign, for this business with the LED sign. From what I see here, it's going to be turned perpendicular to the street and it'll have two sides to it. That's what they're asking for, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. My deal is, this is in our ETJ, I understand, and it hopefully one of these days will be part of our city. But I don't know if it's ever going to be part of our city if we don't allow our businesses to put out what they need to put out to make their businesses successful. So I wish there was some way that we could compromise or get this done, that we could get this sign up for this business. I'm open to, if council has any suggestions, I would like to see it go in myself. And it just seems like we're always going over signs every meeting that we have. To me, we need to change some of our sign ordinances, because to me, it's confusing also in many ways. So I'm thinking that if we over-regulate our businesses in our ETJ, they're never going to want to come into the city. So I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say.
Okay, Paul, it's your second, so you're up next on discussion.
I'm in agreement with Councilman Byes about the quote-unquote awning on it. I'm okay with that. I'm a little perplexed on the side one. I don't know, to me, that's getting a little heavy, but that's kind of a personal preference on my part. So I'm really okay with the signing. The pole sign, while it is, I know that the whole LED sign is not in our regulations. We do have one out front, and it's hard to, in my opinion, to limit someone else from having something that we have. So I'm not totally opposed to it. I think it's quite large, but I think I could vote for it.
Is that it? Cynthia?
The canopy part is fine with me. I don't have a problem with that, and I do agree with the P&Z on that. The thing that bothers me is the sign is already up. It's not, if you haven't seen it, all you have to do is drive by. The sign is already up. And that bothers me, that there is, the old adage, ignorance of a law is no excuse. And for them to have put the sign up before trying to find out what our sign ordinance was, I don't want to give a hardship to someone. The sign is quite large. If we allow, Councilmember Fredericks mentions the fact that the city of Helotes has our LED sign. Well, governments do this all the time. I guess we exempted ourselves from the ordinance, and that's something that governments can do. But if we allow this sign for this, first of all, if we allow it, then we're going to have to allow it. Let's just forget our sign ordinance. Again, we have a sign ordinance. It does not allow LED. So we need to change the sign ordinance. We cannot continue to give variances. So I'm not prepared to give a variance for this under any circumstance. It's too large. Now, I have to say this. When I was driving back up the hill, you can only see the top of it until you get up into the hill, and then you see it. But we do have a sign ordinance. I think we should follow it until we decide to change it. We can change it for parts of the city, but otherwise we're going to be giving variances, and I really don't want to put the LED in there. This is a storage facility, for goodness sake. Why do they need to have flashing lights? It's a storage facility. So, okay, it's large. You can see it. There's no problem. So this is just adding a little bit more garish to the whole thing. So I'm against it.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are actually, in my opinion, there's two things that are here, one of which has two parts to it. The first one, of course, is the canopy / whatever you want to call it, and while that is a little difficult to put within our ordinance, it's already there, it was there before, and I know that's not something that you'll hear me say typically when it comes to signs, but it almost kind of doubles up like a wall sign that just has a little 3D effect to it. Like P and Z and the other council members, I can live with that. I don't see that much of an issue. It's not really going way out there. I am a little concerned with the fact that the color scheme doesn't meet any of our guidelines and codes either. It's bright red, and the rest of our sign ordinance really talks about being something of a subdued type of color. But I can go with this one in this situation. The issue with the pole sign, I think, as Councilmember Massey brings up, is something that we seem to have again. No, I know the whole idea of having a pole sign that existed in our ETJ before it became our ETJ is really the kind of the issue. When you completely redo a sign, it does have to go back to our ordinance again. There's several issues with regard to the fact that if you say, okay, the pole sign's there already, let's leave the pole sign. The height is higher than what we would typically allow for a single business sign, and actually a multi-tenant sign, even with the exception we grant on Bandera Road, which is 15 feet, and this one is in excess of, or is it 12? It's 12 feet.
12.
And this one is in excess of that. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, the sign company said that they would be willing to lower that. I personally, given the location, I don't know that there's any benefit in cutting 3 feet off the sign to force them to change the canopy. The top portion of the sign, where when you look, it says "Move It Storage," is merely just another cover to a box that's already present. And so, as this council has done in the past, has allowed, even though it has been by variance, the replacement of one sign equivalent to what was there before. That's what was there before. The LED portion is brand new, and according to the applicant, it's not actually hooked up yet and could easily be removed. And they mentioned to Planning and Zoning that would be a compromise they would make if the Planning and Zoning wasn't very much in favor, and of course they were not considerably. So my thought would be the canopy / awning, whatever we want to call it, and maybe we need to come up with a way to call it something for the future, would be acceptable. The height exception, the fact that they've taken a plain pole and put somewhat of a box around it, doesn't quite make it a monument, but it does keep it from becoming even that much larger, would be acceptable. I wouldn't require them to cut the size down, but I would disagree with the LED part. I am not in opinion that just because the city has something that we should allow it everywhere. There's a whole lot of things that the city does that we don't allow everywhere else. I mean, the height of this building, the height of the fire department is certainly not acceptable anywhere else either, but just because we have it here doesn't mean it's permissible everywhere. And I still say that while we can revisit the sign ordinance, I don't think that that's something that we should allow, because once you allow it, even on the outside fringe, then you're going to go right back into that, well, they did it, we can too, and the next thing you know, it'll be all over the city, something that we've worked really hard over the many years to prevent, and that is just a wanton use of any sign you want anywhere in the city. So that's my thought. The canopy, yes, as is, even though it is a variance. The sign height, replace the cover for the box that's existing, but not the LED portion of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Bert, any follow-up?
I still think, I mean, okay, I understand, but we're exempt. We can put up an LED sign here at City Hall. But in my mind, these LED signs that they're making now, they're not bright to me. To me, they even look better than a fixed sign. Look at our LED sign. It's nice. I'm still I still wouldn't have a problem with this LED sign out there. I wouldn't at all. And as I said again, we need to let our businesses do what they need to do to survive. And I think this is part of what they need to do to survive. That's my opinion, and I don't see a problem with the LED sign. That's all I had.
Paul? Any follow-up?
No.
Cynthia, anything else?
I agree with Councilmember Blue with what he said, and I still don't think that we should allow that LED sign. It should be removed, the canopy, that sign above it moved down so that it could be, I would agree to that, but, and everything else, but I don't want the LED sign. I will, that's just.
Alex, any final follow-up?
I would just say for future thought and consideration, the fact that LED signs do not meet other things, and that is the ability to be full cutoff, as every other sign is required to be in the city. And while we have one here, it's also very low to the ground. If you allow an LED sign, even with the height requirements, then you're putting it up 12, 15 feet off the ground, which is very different than having the short sign as we do. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can make a full cut-off LED sign. And so that would then be another rule that they're not consistent with in the city. And again, if we change our ordinance to allow it on the outside edges, then you could see LED signs anywhere within town. And I disagree with that. I don't think that's what we need to do. I think businesses can do just fine without an LED sign.
Okay, just a couple of comments from what I see, just hopefully to help a little bit. I will point out that under prohibited signs, pole signs and the LED signs are strictly prohibited, and I know just in past action from the last meeting, you guys denied a business on 1560 from having a little 2-foot by 3-foot sign on a black pole advertising a gun shop. And so this is certainly more massive than that. The things that I looked at is that the LED portion of this sign is larger than what we have out front, and we're exceeding the height by well over 10 feet extra. It's 23 feet instead of the 12 feet that's my understanding that signs should have. So you're really, not only are you doing things that you haven't done before, but you're strictly blowing it out of the water. I agree with Councilmember Buys and Fredericks to some extent, and as I said last time, we do have a lot of variances coming to us, and we are looking at the sign ordinance to hopefully come to P&Z and eliminate some of these things, not change it drastically, but make it a little clearer. As I remember reading to you guys the definition of a freestanding sign versus a pole sign, that's almost contradictory. It's very confusing. And what we have with what's currently written is staff trying to make some very tough decisions on what even to bring to P&Z and council. So those are my thoughts on this type of sign. I just see this as massive compared to some of the things that you haven't allowed in the past. So just ask that you consider all of that, and that you really are looking heavy and hard at this. But that being said, we'll make one more round. Bert, do you have any final comments after that?
I've said what I wanted to say about the LED sign. I will amend my motion to take the LED sign off and allow the redoing of the original sign.
The existing sign?
Yes.
Is that one 23 feet? How tall is the existing sign?
I don't believe he included heights of the existing sign, but I don't believe it's 23 feet, is it?
The existing sign was 22 feet, and it should be on one of our drawings.
Okay. I think it is. I just didn't have it in.
The original pole, all we did was pop the cabinets on it.
Okay.
You're talking about the black sign, the AAA storage sign.
Yes, sir. That was the same pole that was there.
I didn't realize you were here for this item.
That's all right.
If council would like to ask any specific questions, are you the owner?
I work for the company. It's my responsibility to get things permitted.
Okay. So we'll see if council has any specific questions for you. Anybody? No? Okay. So we'll go along. So you've amended your motion. Would you please restate your motion?
Okay. I amend the motion, I amend the motion that to remove the LED sign, but allow the other portion that was redone. Does that?
And the canopy.
And the canopy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the motion was originally to allow the canopy that's already there, and then have the pole sign, which evidently part of it's already there, but to disallow or deny the LED portion of this request. Everything else in the request
That's
will
correct.
stay as requested.
Yes.
So that motion has been amended to approve the variance on these signs, excluding the LED sign as proposed. It's your second, Paul.
I'll second.
You'll consider that? Okay.
Yes.
So the amended motion has been seconded. Any discussion on it from your end, Cynthia?
No, I just want to clarify that with removing the LED sign, they're going to move the sign, then will be smaller, it won't be 22 feet then. It
Well,
would be-
actually, he says it's that height now with the AAA storage on
There's
it.
going to, oh, so they're going to make this thing, it's going to stay 22 feet?
Is that your intent?
We want to move.
If you could please step up to the mic.
Yeah. Identify yourself if you
John
would.
Shepherd with Accent Signs. We want to work with the city to keep within your guidelines and keep our client semi-satisfied. At the P and Z Commission, we offered to take that LED cabinet out, which is smaller than yours, by the way,
Well, not
and
really.
reduce the height of the pole. We'll chop 4 or 5 feet off the pole and just bring the pole cabinet down.
Okay,
Or we can yank out the LED board and just put a pole cover in that spot and not mess with the height. But like I said, we would prefer to keep our client happy instead of having to move the sign in front of their building and put a ground sign there.
So what would lowering the total height do without the LED?
I believe that LED is 4 foot tall,
4.5?
4.5 foot. So it'll drop it from 22 feet to 17, or if we need to drop down to 15, we can. Part of the problem with the height is the grade of the road to where the bottom of that pipe starts is about a 1.5 to 2 foot drop. So if we go from, even with the top of the street, you know, it'd be 15 feet to get above. And then there's a iron fence there that is 7 feet tall. And it, like she said, it blocks visibility when you're coming up, Ron? Yeah, coming up the hill. The other issue was, I guess to the bottom of that LED cabinet is 9 feet, because I measured before I came out here.
Yeah,
in
9
inches.
9'2" to the bottom of the LED.
So we can drop that cabinet down to there, and if the bottom of the cabinet is 9 foot, I guess it's 8 foot tall?
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, 8.
Yeah,
So the top of the cabinet would be at 17, which would give them visibility over the iron fence there and from coming up the road.
So the net change in height would be essentially
Basically
4.5 to
5.5
5 feet.
Yes, sir.
So you could safely take it from 2210 to, say, 15 to 18 feet?
Yes, sir. Somewhere in that range.
Would 15 work, total
Yes, sir.
height?
We can make it work at 15.
Okay.
That's fine.
And the way I'm reading, your LED is 4.5 by 10, and ours out here is 5 by 9, so I think you got us beat by a little.
Really?
Nothing else, we're
It
in
looks,
the
it
tie.
looks way taller than 4 foot.
5.
but-
We're
okay.
5 by 9.
I didn't go measure because like she said.
I wouldn't kid
mean-
you.
And the intent of that LED sign was not to have it change messages every 5 seconds. They'll probably put up one message a day and it'd just be static throughout the day. They brought that from a Corpus Christi location that they no longer had a use for it and put it here, so.
Well, they're going to
And taking it out and moving it somewhere else is not an issue either, so,
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah.
Okay, we have something else to consider then, by dropping the total height of the pole sign to 15 from 2210, take the LED portion off, and just allow the top portion then.
That's,
So the amended
to restate
motion,
it?
thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
The amended motion then would be to a yes vote for this motion as amended would be to approve the canopy sign on the building, both sides, and to approve the pole sign as long as the LED portion is removed and that the total height is taken to 15 feet from asphalted in the parking lot or wherever it is to the top of the sign. That would be your amended motion? Okay, Paul?
Yes.
You okay with that?
Yes.
Cynthia, any comments?
That's it.
Okay, Alex, anything?
No, it's great, thank you.
You're good? Okay, so once again, for clarity, a yes vote to this motion will approve everything in this variance with the exception of the LED portion of the pole sign, and it will take the sign, total sign height from 2210 from asphalt down to 15 to the top of the sign. Okay? So we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries, so you understand that? And we can get that to you in writing if you need it. Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to item number 9, which is discussion and action on another variance for a sign. So if we can have a motion and a second, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we discuss and take action on item number 9.
We have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. For item number 9, so Bert, it's your motion. You're up for discussion first again.
I totally agree with P and Z's recommendation, although it was 3-1 with one absentation, that we allow the variance for this doctor's office.
And you did catch the note that the signs are already in place?
Yeah.
Okay. Cynthia?
I'm in disagreement with that. I did notice that staff did say that they thought we should deny the variance. Having two signs that it looks unattractive, to say the least, and they're not creative signs, they're just regular signs. So, as far as I understand, we can grant a variance for creative signs, and I guess they threw that on there, but there's nothing creative about these signs. So, I don't see the necessity to have that, especially since this is a concierge business. It's not like he's trying to grab people's attention. As he mentioned at the last meeting when he was here, that people are already going to be signed up for his business. They're going to already know where it is. So why have all these, these gigantic signs? I don't understand it. So I would not like to grant the variance.
Paul?
I am in agreement with Councilwoman Massey that I think it is a little too busy for that building. I'm okay with one. I think one of them needs to come down.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Massey and Fredericks as well. I think that I know that staff explained to Planning and Zoning that the only reason it came to them in creative signs is because there was no avenue for a request for variance from a window sign in the ordinance. And so not that they were professing that it was creative in any fashion, because it's primarily just text, but that was the only way that the request for variance could actually be even heard. I agree that two identical signs side by side, very close proximity, doesn't really, to me, fit what we would be looking for. When you consider that any business in Old Town also has the right to have a wall sign, I realize there's very little wall space, but that still there is other signage possible. To me, a creative sign request would be one, and maybe this is something that I don't want to presume we're going to say yes to, but would be one maybe more fitting to this, like a lot of the other older buildings in Old Town, and that is to put one on the rooftop, to put one up there where that would be the case, where you could actually create something that is creative and unique to that particular business instead of just a collection of words. I agree that one of that nature is fine. I realize that they're up, and And while I certainly, I appreciate the request and the need for advertising, I would think that if they were at least different, I would, entertain it more, but it's not, they're not even different. And I understand also what the doctor indicated to planning and zoning is that they serve multiple functions, which is why he wanted them to cover the entire window, which is also a variance, since our window sign ordinance in Old Town doesn't allow a sign that covers the whole window, but has only an 8 square foot requirement, this being considerably more than that. But that could have been accomplished simply by putting up a type of a solar screen or a screen similar to these signs, rather than creating another form of advertising on that that contains the same date on the other side. I can't see the approval on that. But I would ask, and maybe our administrator would see if we need to make sure the motion reflects correctly, since if we were to go with allowing one, would it still be a variance given the size requirements of the one that might be approved?
Yes, I would think so. It can't be larger than 8 square feet.
So then you'd have to determine what size you would want, whether it would take up the whole window like it does now, or something between 8 square feet.
I realize it's not my motion, but my opinion would be that we would allow one as is, but not the second.
Okay, Bert, any follow-up?
Once again, I think we need to allow our businesses to do what they need to do to survive, but I will amend my motion again to allow one sign as is. Now, these two signs, you say they're alike, but they're mirrors of each other, I guess. So, how do we determine which one he would like? Do we have to say which one? The right window, the left window?
No, you can figure that out.
You could leave it up to him, I would imagine would be an
Once
option.
again, I'll amend my motion to just allow one sign.
One sign, and let the occupant or tenant decide which one he would like to keep?
That's correct.
Okay. Cynthia, are you okay with that amended motion?
Yes,
No?
yes.
Oh, yes? Okay. So we have a motion then that has been amended to allow the variance for one of the signs, which one would be the discretion of the owner, but only one window would be able to be covered in its entirety. Paul, you have any discussion on that amended motion?
No, sir.
No? Alex?
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay. No further discussion being necessary, we'll call the question. And again, a yes vote for this amended motion will be to allow one of the two signs at the discretion of the tenant, and that sign will be as depicted here, able to remain and cover one of the two windows. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and the variance as amended is approved. And again, I'll say we're working on some suggestions that we'll take to P and Z and you guys on the sign ordinance, and I would encourage each of you to just read through the sign ordinance and maybe come up with some ideas to help us out on that. And hopefully, as we've always said, help to make our ordinances clear, concise, and easy to understand, because that's the whole objective. That being said, our agenda is complete. If there are no objections, we will adjourn. We are adjourned, and the time is 7:43.